The massacre that changed everything. The colony of New Terra was a jewel among the stars. It was humanity's hope, a peaceful world filled with families, scientists, and dreamers. Built on a lush planet, it had everything: clean air, rich soil, and beautiful cities that shined under twin suns. The people believed they were safe, but safety was an illusion. One night, without warning, the Valoran Empire attacked. They came like shadows, silent and merciless. The first to die never even saw their killers. Massive warships blocked the sky, casting a dark shadow over the colony. The alarms screamed, but it was already too late. Valoran drop pods fell from the sky like metal comets. They crashed into the streets, bursting open to reveal monstrous warriors. The Valorans were twice the size of a human, covered in dark armor, their glowing eyes burning with hatred. They carried energy blades that could cut through steel and weapons that vaporized flesh in an instant. The massacre began. The night of horror. The people of New Terra ran. Some tried to fight, using old rifles and mining tools, but they were no match for the invaders. Families hid in their homes, holding their children close, whispering prayers that no one would answer. The Valorans moved through the city like a storm. Buildings crumbled under their weapons. The streets ran red with blood. In the Central Command Center, Governor Elias Carter sent desperate messages to Earth and the United Earth Forces, UEF. New Terra is under attack. We need help. Anyone, please respond. But there was no answer. The colony was too far, and the Valoran had jammed communications. No one was coming. The governor knew what this meant. New Terra was already dead. The last stand. Commander Eric Voss was one of the few trained soldiers on New Terra. He had fought in border skirmishes before, but nothing like this. He and his team of 50 UEF Marines held the main defense line near the city square. They had barricades, turrets, and heavy weapons, but they were outnumbered. A Valoran war leader, covered in golden armor, stepped forward and pointed a massive energy sword at them. Surrender, humans. Die quickly or die screaming. Voss clenched his jaw. He looked at his men, tired, wounded, but determined. He raised his rifle and fired the first shot. The battle erupted. Bullets and plasma filled the air. Explosions shook the ground. The Marines fought bravely, taking down dozens of Valorans. But for every alien that fell, 10 more replaced them. One by one, Voss's men died. His second-in-command, Sergeant Hall, was ripped apart by a Valoran blade. His best sniper, Corporal Diaz, was vaporized by a plasma shot. The barricades fell. The turrets stopped firing. Voss himself was stabbed in the side, but he kept fighting. Blood poured down his armor, but he didn't stop. He refused to die on his knees. But then he heard the screams. He turned and saw the civilian shelters burning. The Valorans weren't just killing soldiers. They were slaughtering everyone. The end of New Terra. By dawn, the city was silent. Smoke rose into the sky. Buildings were reduced to ashes. The once beautiful streets were covered in bodies. The Valoran war leader stood among the ruins, satisfied. His warriors roared in victory. The humans were nothing. Weak, easy prey. He turned to leave, but then he noticed something. A radio beacon, blinking weakly among the rubble. Someone had managed to send a final distress signal before dying. A message had been sent. To Earth. The war leader chuckled. It didn't matter. By the time Earth heard it, they would be too afraid to fight back. The Valorans left New Terra, their ships vanishing into the black void of space. They did not realize their mistake. They did not know that humans did not forget. And soon, they would learn that humans did not forgive. Earth awakens. The message reached Earth 2 weeks later. The moment it was played, the entire planet fell silent. Millions of people watched the footage. The screams, the fire, the total destruction of New Terra. Then came the anger. For the first time in history, Earth was united by one emotion: vengeance. The United Earth Forces declared war. Every factory, every military base, every scientist worked with one goal: destroy the Valoran Empire. And so, the flames of war were ignited. The massacre of New Terra would be avenged. Humanity was coming. And this time, they would not be the ones to burn. The call to war. The galaxy had never seen humanity like this before. For centuries, Earth had been divided. Nations, politics, conflicts among themselves. But after the massacre of New Terra, everything changed. There were no more borders, no more disagreements. There was only one enemy. The Valoran Empire had made a mistake. They thought humanity was weak. They thought Earth would be too afraid to strike back. They were wrong. The message that shook the world. In the heart of United Earth Command, the recording from New Terra played on massive holoscreens. Leaders, generals, and civilians watched in horrified silence. They saw the streets covered in bodies, the towering flames, the terrified screams of children before the final transmission cut to black. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Then, President Ilara Sato stood up. She was known as a diplomat, a woman of peace, but when she spoke, her voice carried the cold weight of steel. The Valorans believe we are weak. They believe we will bow, but they do not understand humans. We do not break. We do not forget. We do not forgive. We will have vengeance. The room erupted. The world erupted. The United Earth Forces, UEF, declared total war. Factories that once built spaceships for exploration were now constructing war machines. Scientists who once searched for new planets now developed weapons to destroy them. Civilians signed up by the millions. The biggest military in human history was about to be born. And at the front of it all was Commander Eric Voss, one of the last survivors of New Terra. Forged in fire, Voss stood in the UEF war room, looking at the holographic map of the stars. His body still bore the scars from the massacre, but the fire in his eyes burned brighter than ever. The Valoran Empire controlled hundreds of star systems. They had a fleet larger than anything humanity had ever faced. But they were arrogant. They saw humanity as insects, not a threat. That arrogance would be their downfall. Voss turned to his team, scientists, strategists, warriors. He pointed at a small red-marked planet on the star map. This is Outpost Silos, a Valoran supply station. Lightly guarded. If we hit them here, they'll never see us coming. The plan was simple. Strike fast. Strike hard. Send a message. The first punch of humanity's vengeance was about to land. The war machine awakens. The war factories of Earth roared to life. Massive dreadnoughts, sleek stealth ships, and advanced battle armor were produced at an impossible speed. Weapons more powerful than anything humanity had ever wielded were tested and perfected. Even Mars, once just a mining colony, became a fortress, its skies filled with newly trained pilots, its surface lined with defense turrets. The UEF's newest warship, the Revenant, was the first of its kind, designed not for defense, but for obliteration. It carried EMP warheads, armor-piercing torpedoes, and railguns that could punch through an entire Valoran battleship. And leading the fleet was Commander Voss himself. Before they left, President Sato gave them a single order: no mercy. The first strike. As the fleet left Earth's orbit, a transmission was sent across the stars. To the Valoran High Command, it carried only 4 words: "We are coming for you." For the first time in history, the hunters were about to become the hunted. Humanity's vengeance had begun. The first strike. The stars had never seen humanity like this before. For centuries, humans were explorers, traders, diplomats, never the conquerors, never the aggressors. But when the Valoran Empire burned New Terra to ash, they awakened something they had never faced before. Rage. Cold. Unforgiving. Relentless. And now, humanity was bringing that rage straight to their doorstep. The Ghost Fleet moves. In the silent void of space, the UEF Ghost Fleet moved like a predator in the dark. No transmissions, no signals, not even a whisper. The fleet, led by Commander Eric Voss, was heading for Outpost Silos, a Valoran supply station deep in enemy space. It wasn't just a random target. It was a message. Silos was a hub for Valoran warships. It fueled their expansion, supplied their forces. The Valorans thought it was untouchable, hidden behind their borders. Tonight, that illusion would die. A new kind of warfare. On the bridge of the Revenant, the UEF's deadliest warship, Voss stood watching the holographic display. Silos spun slowly in the void, its defense cannons scanning for threats. But they were looking in the wrong places. Humans didn't fight like the Valorans. The UEF's newest warships were equipped with stealth plating, making them nearly invisible to Valoran scanners. And unlike their enemies, humans didn't charge in headfirst. They hunted. And they struck when the enemy least expected it. Voss turned to his crew. His voice was calm. Begin the attack. Hell breaks loose. From the darkness, torpedoes erupted. The first wave struck the Valoran station before the alarms could even sound. Massive explosions ripped through fuel depots and docking bays. Then came the railguns. Human warships emerged from the void, spitting death. Silos had no time to react. Valoran commanders shouted orders, but their ships were in chaos. Fire and wreckage filled the sky. Inside the station, Valoran warriors scrambled to fight back, but they weren't ready for what came next. The humans boarded them. The boarding assault. Voss led the first wave himself. The moment the airlocks blew open, his soldiers poured in like demons. No survivors, he ordered. The Valorans fought back, but this wasn't like any battle they had faced before. Humans were fast, brutal, efficient. They used cover, flanked their enemies, and struck with precision. Voss's squad moved through the corridors like ghosts. One by one, they cleared every room, leaving only silence behind. Then Voss reached the control center. A high-ranking Valoran officer stood trembling, his forearms gripping a plasma rifle. You are not warriors," the alien spat. "You are savages." Voss stepped forward, pressing his rifle against the Valoran's skull. His voice was ice. "We are vengeance." A single shot. The officer fell. The station was theirs. The message is sent. Before leaving, the UEF forces hacked into the Valoran communication systems. They sent a single broadcast to every Valoran-controlled world. The footage was clear. Valoran bodies scattered across the station. Human soldiers standing victorious. The UEF flag planted on the ruined station. And then Voss's final message, spoken in perfect Valoran. This was just the beginning. The humans vanished into the void, leaving only fire and fear behind. For the first time in history, the Valoran Empire knew what it felt like to be hunted. The Valoran retaliation. The Valoran Empire had ruled the stars for centuries. They had conquered countless worlds, crushed rebellions, and wiped out species that dared to resist. Never once had they feared an enemy. Until now. For the first time in their history, they were the ones bleeding. The massacre at Outpost Silos had sent shockwaves through the Empire. A single human fleet, using stealth and precision, had reduced one of their key stations to nothing but floating debris. The footage of human soldiers standing over Valoran corpses was played across every military command center. The High Command watched in silence. Their warriors, once seen as invincible, had been slaughtered like cattle. Then, the silence broke. The order was given. Exterminate them. The wrath of the Empire. From the heart of Valoran space, the Empire mobilized a fleet unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Thousands of warships, armed with planet-cracking weapons, prepared for launch. Their target, Earth. They would strike fast, overwhelm human defenses, and burn the homeworld to the ground. There would be no mercy, no negotiations. Let the humans know what true war feels like. The fleet departed, leaving behind a trail of fire and vengeance. But the Valorans had underestimated humanity once again. Spies in the shadows. Deep in Valoran space, an invisible figure moved through the shadows of a command center. He wasn't Valoran. He wasn't even supposed to be there. He was Agent Dax Reynolds, an infiltrator for the United Earth Forces Intelligence Division, UEFID. For months, he had been gathering information, listening to Valoran plans, stealing data. Tonight, he found what he had been waiting for. The fleet was on the move. Dax uploaded everything: fleet numbers, ship formations, attack plans, then whispered a single message into his comm. "They're coming." Then he disappeared into the night. The message reaches Earth. Inside United Earth Command, alarms blared. The encrypted transmission from Reynolds came through. The room fell silent as Admiral Jonas Pierce read the report. A Valoran fleet, bigger than anything humanity had ever seen, was heading straight for Earth. This was it. There was no running, no hiding. Either humanity stood and fought, or Earth would burn. Admiral Pierce turned to his officers. His voice was calm, steady. "We knew this day would come. Alert all forces. Activate planetary defenses. Prepare for war. The trap is set." The Valoran fleet roared toward Earth, expecting a weak, terrified enemy. Instead, they found something else entirely. As they entered the Sol system, the darkness came alive. Thousands of human warships, hidden in the asteroid belt, suddenly powered up. Stealth bombers, Titan-class dreadnoughts, and missile cruisers unleashed hell. Fire. A wave of EMP torpedoes crashed into the Valoran ships, frying their shields. Then came the railguns, punching through their armor like paper. The trap had been sprung. The Battle of Earth had begun. The Battle of Earth begins. The stars above Earth burned with war. For centuries, Earth had been a world of dreamers, explorers, and builders. But tonight, it was a fortress, a planet standing at the edge of annihilation, ready to fight for its survival. The Valoran fleet, vast and unstoppable, had arrived. Their warships blotted out the sky, engines roaring like the fury of a dying star. They expected a slaughter. They expected humanity to kneel. But the moment they entered the Sol system, they realized their mistake. Earth was ready. The sky turns to fire. From the shadows of the asteroid belt, the United Earth fleet struck first. Thousands of missiles, railgun slugs, and EMP warheads screamed through space, tearing into the Valoran vanguard. Ships exploded in brilliant fireballs, their shields flickering and failing under the brutal precision of human weapons. "Hit them again," Admiral Jonas Pierce barked. More torpedoes launched. More explosions followed. The first wave of Valoran ships crumbled before they even reached Earth's orbit. But the Empire's main fleet was still coming, and they were furious. The Earth stands unbroken. The Valoran High Admiral, an ancient warrior named Exirtok, sneered as he watched the human counterattack. "They fight like insects," he growled. "They will burn all the same." He raised a clawed hand. "Advance. Crush them." The Valoran Doombringers, massive capital ships, each the size of a city, fired their superweapons. Blinding energy beams lashed toward Earth, meant to reduce entire continents to ash. But the moment they neared the atmosphere, something happened. The planetary defense grid activated. From hidden silos across Earth and its moons, anti-orbital cannons roared to life. The sky itself fought back. Titan-class railguns, each the size of a skyscraper, fired planet-cracking slugs straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Massive explosions tore through the invaders. The Valoran ships reeled, their formation breaking apart. For the first time in history, an empire that had conquered entire star systems found itself outmatched. The war reaches the ground. But not all the enemy ships were destroyed. Drop pods rained down like falling stars, carrying Valoran warriors to the surface. Cities became battlefields. In New Washington, Commander Eric Voss led Earth's last line of defense. His troopers, Mech units, and urban guerrilla forces stood at the ready as the Valoran stormed the streets. "Hold the line," Voss shouted. Gunfire erupted. Explosions shook the ground. Humans fought like cornered lions, using tunnels, rooftops, and alleyways to ambush the enemy. Every street became a choke point of death. And yet, the Valorans kept coming, until Earth unleashed its final weapon. The Titans awaken. Deep beneath the surface, in hidden military bunkers, the Titan-class dreadnoughts, the most advanced war machines ever built, were activated. These weren't just ships. They were moving fortresses. Colossus I, the largest dreadnought ever constructed, rose from its underground hangar. Its massive plasma cannons locked onto the Valoran mothership in orbit. "Fire," came the command. A single planetary killer round erupted from the dreadnought's main cannon. It ripped straight through the Valoran flagship, cutting it in half. The Empire's greatest warship fell from the sky, crashing into the ocean in a fiery inferno. We do not bow. The battlefield fell silent. And then, for the first time, the Valorans began to retreat. The turning point. The Battle of Earth was over, but the war had only just begun. The Valoran fleet, battered and broken, limped back into deep space. They had never lost a war before. They had never been forced to flee. In their arrogance, they had believed humanity would be easy to crush. Now, they knew the truth. Earth had not just survived. It had won. And the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made an enemy of humans. The final stand. The Valoran Empire had never lost a war. Until now. The Battle of Earth had shattered their invasion force. Their mighty fleet, once an unstoppable tide, had been broken and forced to retreat. But the Empire was not done. Humiliated and desperate, the Valoran High Command made a final, ruthless decision. If we cannot conquer Earth, we will erase it. A new weapon was coming. One that would not just kill humans, it would end their entire species. This was not war anymore. This was extermination. The Doomsday Fleet arrives. Deep in space, hidden within a black void of dying stars, the Valoran Empire had built its ultimate superweapon, a planet cracker, capable of splitting entire worlds apart. It was called Oblivion's Wrath, a dreadnought the size of a small moon, covered in planetary annihilation cannons. It was designed for one purpose: total destruction. And now, it was heading for Earth. The final stand. The Valoran Empire had never lost a war. Until now. The Battle of Earth had shattered their invasion force. Their mighty fleet, once an unstoppable tide, had been broken and forced to retreat. But the Empire was not done. Humiliated and desperate, the Valoran High Command made a final, ruthless decision. If we cannot conquer Earth, we will erase it. A new weapon was coming, one that would not just kill humans, it would end their entire species. This was not war anymore. This was extermination. The Doomsday Fleet arrives. Deep in space, hidden within a black void of dying stars, the Valoran Empire had built its ultimate superweapon, a planet cracker capable of splitting entire worlds apart. It was called Oblivion's Wrath, a dreadnought the size of a small moon, covered in planetary annihilation cannons. It was designed for one purpose: total destruction. And now, it was heading for Earth, the last line of defense. On Luna Base, Earth's last surviving spy satellites picked up the approaching threat. Admiral Jonas Pierce's face went pale as the scans came in. My God, they mean to destroy us all. There was no time to build more defenses, no time to call for allies. Earth was alone, and it had one last chance. Vengeance complete. The war was over. The Valoran Empire, once feared across the stars, lay in ruins. Its fleets were shattered. Its worlds burned. The superweapon meant to erase humanity had been destroyed by the very species they thought was weak. But Earth did not celebrate. Not yet. Because while the galaxy whispered of humanity's unstoppable will, those who had fought and bled knew the truth. Victory had come at a cost. The silence after the storm. On Earth, billions stared at the night sky, still lit by the dying embers of the Valoran fleet. They had survived the impossible. They had defied extinction. Yet, in the streets of New Washington, there was no cheering, no parades, only silence. Families waited, scanning the lists of the fallen, hoping, praying, to find a missing name, a lost soldier, a loved one who might still return. And in the war room of United Earth Command, a quiet truth settled over the survivors. Commander Eric Voss was gone, a hero's legacy. There was no body to bury, no remains to return, only the legend of what he had done. Across human space, his name spread like wildfire. The man who had infiltrated a doomsday dreadnought. The soldier who had fought, alone, in the heart of the enemy's mightiest weapon. And the warrior who never came back. Statues were built. Stories were told. Songs were sung. But to the soldiers who had fought beside him, to the people of Earth who had lost so much, one truth remained. He didn't fight for glory. He fought for us. The fate of the Valorans. With their fleets broken and their capital world in chaos, the surviving Valoran leaders sent a desperate message to Earth. We surrender. But Earth did not respond. Not at first. For weeks, the galaxy watched in fear, waiting to see what the humans would do. Would they wipe out the Valorans the way their enemies had tried to erase them? Would they burn entire worlds, just as New Terra had burned? Finally, President Ilar Asado stepped forward and made the decision that would shape the future of the galaxy. Earth did not exterminate, but they did not forgive. You are no longer an empire, she declared. You are no longer conquerors. You are nothing, and you will never threaten us again. The Valoran Empire was dismantled. Their war fleets were scrapped, their weapons destroyed. Their homeworld, once a symbol of strength, became an occupied territory, watched by UEF forces. They would never rise again. A new era begins. The war had changed everything. The United Earth Forces, once only a defensive force, had become something greater. No longer just a planetary military. Now, they were an interstellar power. Earth was no longer just a world. It was an empire. One built not on conquest, but on a single unshakable truth. Humanity will never kneel. New alliances were formed. The remaining free species of the galaxy, once too afraid to challenge the Valorans, now turned to Earth for protection. The humans had beaten an empire, and the universe would never see them the same way again. The final message. A year after the war ended, a probe was launched into deep space. It carried a single transmission, a warning meant for anyone, any species, any empire, who might one day look at Earth and see an easy target. The message was simple. We were explorers. You made us warriors. We were peaceful. You taught us vengeance. We did not seek war. But if war comes again, we will finish it. And beneath those words, carved into the metal hull of the probe, was a name. The name of the man who had led humanity's greatest war, Eric Voss. His body was gone, but his legend would never die. Because as long as Earth stood, as long as a single human still breathed, the stars would remember the truth. Humanity does not break. Humanity does not forget. And humanity will never, ever bow.